if it was, I don't think they wanted to play guys longer than they had planned. So I don't think we were going to see if it was a close game where they were going to come back and just play guys to the end to try to win. I thought they gave guys rest, like when they should. But I also think that they do have to defend the perimeter better. I mean, we've seen this. I remember talking here at a game, like the perimeter defense, they were letting teams that don't even shoot well from 3-point range shoot well from 3-point range. And that happened on this trip, but also on this trip. I will also say it's a West Coast trip. West Coast trips in the NBA are probably one of the toughest things a team faces. They went, did they go 6-0 earlier in the season on the West Coast swing, or 5-0?
I think it was like 4-0. They won all the games.
Yeah.
I think it was 4-0.
It was a good, like right around the turn, around the New Year. And that just doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen. So I think that this is more, it's going to even out. Like, say they win tomorrow in Portland, they will have gone like on those at that West Coast swing. They'll go, if they win it, then they'll have they lost three to start, so they'll have gone 5-3, or something like that on the West Coast. And that's about right for a good team. It's really hard to win on the West Coast. You've got the time change. You've got, just a lot of different factors to deal with out there. So while it was not fun to watch, it's happened to good teams before, so I'm not too worried. I was glad they got on track yesterday. And, a win is a win. I don't care what sport it is. A win is a win. And it gets them back on track. And Kenny Atkinson wasn't really worried either. And I trust him. He's done a great job. He's done a great job. And he's never going to admit, they'll never come out and say, well, we didn't have our best game plan, or we were trying these different things. It's not going to come out and say that. But I feel like they might have been trying some things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it also makes me wonder, too, if they played in the Western Conference, where would they be ranked at? Because even, we struggled against some of the sorriest teams in the West Conference, I guess, looking at Kevin Durant. Is Kevin Durant.
Well, going into the road trip, they're 18-3 against the West.
Okay, yeah.
I know. Oklahoma City once and Houston twice.
Yeah, I know. And we shouldn't have lost to Houston twice. We should have beat Houston. If Darius Garland can make his free throws at the end of the game, that's a game that goes into overtime, or a game that we win. So I'm still kind of, have you noticed I'm still kind of upset about that?
Yeah, it seems like it there.
I'm a woman. We don't get over anything.
You were a coach. You
I know.
You got to get over it quick.
I know, but I'm a woman first. I'm emotional about these things.
Yeah, that's true. I mean,
I'm the same way. Always going to be
like
there.
When it comes. Yeah. So I just, I think they would be first or second in the West. I think they would. I think they would be.
Okay.
I think the West is good, but it's not that much better. It's not. I just think there's always, especially in Cleveland, for some reason, Cleveland likes to diminish accomplishments. And the East isn't as good this year. The East isn't as good. And when it's the Guardians, the American League Central isn't that good. So I think they would be 1 or 2 in the West.
I'm just concerned though, Tim, because they lost to the Clippers, which they kind of lost to the bottom feeders. Like, I guess we could say a couple different factors.
Clippers aren't terrible.
Have came into play with this. But they're not good in the Western Conference. So I expected us to go out there and maybe, I expected us to be undefeated considering how we played against the Western Conference this season. So I wasn't
Clippers
expecting us to lose
are a
anything.
playoff team right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sacramento and Phoenix are not. I think Phoenix is
But
trying
they're
to get into the
fighting.
play-in.
Yeah, but they're fighting. And then also too, and I didn't mean to cut you off, I'm sorry. You're gonna get your
That's
best
okay.
every night from every team, no matter how bad they are, because they want to knock off the top team in the Western Conference. And then, like you just mentioned, the Clippers and the Suns, well, the Suns and the Kings are trying to, get into the playoffs. So you're definitely gonna get your best against them. So, there's a couple things that came into play with this West Coast trip. They're still on this trip. They still have the Trailblazers to go, which, they had an exciting victory over the Trailblazers. But I believe were we missing Donovan Mitchell that game? When
I
they played the
think
Trailblazers and we were
possibly.
17 points down and came back?
Possibly. I have the game tracker dashboard up. I could look at that.
Yeah,
I
we were
think
missing
that
somebody significant.
they were missing somebody.
Yeah.
Was that
It
a
was
Sunday
either
game?
Darius or I think it was a Sunday game. They were either missing Darius or they were missing Donovan. And they had a 17-point come from behind victory. So, that was an exciting game. And, who knows, obviously they're going to come out hot and strong. The Trailblazers and want some get back after losing that game. So, another West Coast game, another 10 p.m. start, another late night game for those of us in Cleveland.
I love the late night games.
You do?
I do. I'm a late night person,
I want to go to bed.
No, I'm a late night person. I have been my whole life. I've been a late night person. So, so I've always I remember when I was a kid, and the Indians would be on late, and I would turn the TV on in our room. My brother and I shared a room, and I would turn on the TV in our room, a little black and white 12-inch TV. And I would turn the sound down because it was right next to the wall by my parents' room. And I loved watching the Indians play at 10:30 at night. Oh, it was
Guardians. Here we have to call them the Guardians on this stage.
Oh, we call them the Guardians? Well, they were the Indians
Guardians.
then. I'm sorry, they were the Indians then.
Okay.
But okay. Okay, we'll call them the Guardians. I'm sorry.
When I refer back to something the Indians did, I do say Indians, but currently we refer to them on.
Well, no, when they play on the West Coast this year, the Guardians will be playing. Yeah, I just but
yeah. I'm not a fan of that either because I'll be wanting to go to bed. Do you remember that game? It might have been in 2006. I can't remember, but the Lakers and the Cavs. I think did they have double overtime and the game didn't go off until almost 2:30 in the morning or something like that. It was something crazy. I can't remember, and I just remember being so tired the next day for work. And I think that was the same season. We beat LA twice, and I think that Christmas Day that we played them as well. That's when they threw the foam fingers on the court. Do you remember that?
I'm not exactly sure. I do know. I know that they've had a couple epic. They had the highest scoring game in NBA history against the Lakers.
Did they?
I think it's been broken.
I wonder if it was that game. It might have been that game.
Oh, that it was.
Because Kobe and LeBron.
That was before LeBron James. Even.
No, okay, no. This was LeBron was definitely on our team. We were on the West Coast. It was a game.
So they've had they've more than had one against them. I looked it up. The that game against Portland in Cleveland when they had the big comeback, Mitchell did not play that day.
Okay.
And I think that was the game where Hunter had a big fourth quarter.
Okay.
Because they outscored them by 10 points in the fourth to tie it up. Then they outscored them by 4 in overtime to win the game. But Mitchell did not play in that game.
Okay, yeah, I thought it was him missing. So yeah, that was an exciting game. Nevertheless, Cavs fans, their heartbeats, was beating a little bit extra hard. So, but that was a incredible game, and hats off to the Cavs for doing it without their superstar. We're gonna take a break right quick, and then we're gonna get into this Donovan Mitchell thing, and Donovan Mitchell blaming himself for the Cavs losing streak. So we're gonna go ahead and take a quick break, Tim, and you're listening to Her in the Huddle on WOVU 95.9 FM. WOVU.
Hill, the first lady of sports.
All right. They not like us. They not like us. This is your girl, Rachel Hill. You're listening to Her in the Huddle on WOVU 95.9 FM. Make sure you keep it locked here on your regular radio dial at 95.9. You can also listen to us on the go if you download the WOVU app. And you can also listen online at WOVU.org. So you got a few different ways to listen to us. And you can listen to us and your favorite people, such as myself. And right here, I have Tim Shire of the Lake County Sentinel here with me today. We're talking some Cavs. We're going to talk some Guardians. And we're going to talk maybe a little bit of Browns if we can get that in. But Tim, when we went to break, one of the things that I had told you we were going to talk about was Donovan Mitchell blaming himself for the losses on the West Coast trip, as well as I believe the loss possibly against Orlando. But I'm not a fan of that. We all know it's not Donovan's fault. Yes, he could have played better, but there's four other people out on the court who are tasked with scoring points as well, and not just Donovan Mitchell. Donovan is a leader, he's a vocal leader and stuff like that, but nobody realistically is actually going to blame him for the losses. I know I'm not. How do you feel about that, Tim?
No, I'm not going to just blame one guy. The team as a whole played bad defense. I think that was it. They played bad defense. You can score all you want, but if you can't play good defense, you're not going to win. And defense has been their calling card, and they just didn't play good defense. So that's why they lost those games, I feel. Did he have a bad game in, was it Sacramento? Or was that Phoenix?
I don't even know because
Phoenix. He really shot poorly in Phoenix, and I think that's the game where he blamed himself. But then they talked to Max Strus, and Max Strus said he talked about defense, that they have to play better defense.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's it. Everybody, you know, in every sport, everybody loves offense, but we know defense wins championships,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and
Absolutely.
especially in the. I mean, it matters a lot in baseball, but I think you probably can get by if you have a slugging team, but hockey, football, basketball, you know, those sports, defense is everything.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can't play defense, you're going to lose. You know, and they played very poor defense, I thought, during the 4-game winning streak
Mm-hmm.
or losing streak.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I think so too. And one of the things is, the indicator of that is you got up on these teams first. All of
Yeah,
these teams you led. Like I said, you had a mini Cavalanche. You didn't have a full on Cavalanche, but you had a mini one, and they were leading. They were leading Orlando by 13 points, and then they let Orlando come back. So normally, when they have that lead like that, they just keep going, but they stopped, and that's a direct correlation to the defense. So you're absolutely right about that. It's funny you didn't mention baseball, but you could just out hit everybody. But it's such a shame that they lost these games, and fans have to remember not to panic. I know it's hard to say, it's easier said than done not to panic about what has happened, and I have to remember that. For myself, I'm supposed to be neutral, but let's be real. Right. Fans have to remember
it's
not to
hard.
panic, and teams are going to go through growing pains, and one of the things that we mentioned before is that you're going to get the best from every team because it's their Super Bowl. They want to knock the top team off in the league. And are we still the top team right now? Okay,
No,
Oklahoma City,
I believe
yes,
Oklahoma
has two
City's 2 games
less
up.
losses than us,
Yeah,
but we're still tops in the East. We still have a 6-game lead over a six
five.
game
I think it's
five.
5,
Okay, because Boston just won
unless
the other
Boston
day.
lost yesterday, which I don't believe they did. So I believe it's 5 still. The
Um,
magic number to clinch the number 1 seed in the East is 7.
okay.
So
So the
any
Cavs have to
combination
top
of Cavs wins and Celtics losses, you know,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So
And the Celtics ain't losing many games, so the Cavs have to be careful,
well,
that they don't lose too many more because you
we've got
want
11
that
left.
home court advantage.
Yeah, you have 11 left. So, and 6 are at home, so that's good. They play really well at home. So,
Okay, 5 games. We're 6-4 in our last 10, and Boston is 9-1 in their last
yes,
10.
yeah. Those mighty Knicks are collapsing.
Yeah,
I
they're
know.
third so far, and then you got the Pacers in fourth. You got the Bucks in 5. You have the Pistons in 6. You have the Hawks in 7, and the Magic in 8. Woo, that could be a
Yeah,
matchup again with the Orlando Magic.
could be. Could
Mm-hmm.
be.
What are your thoughts about that
But
after that game?
I'm not worried about it. I'm not worried about it. They thought they won the championship when they beat the Cavs that day. I mean,
Yeah, but
you know,
they forced the 7-game series last year.
they did, but I think the Cavs are better this year than they were last year.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if Orlando got better. Plus, Jalen Suggs is out for the year, so that hurts them too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And isn't Mo Wagner out for the year too?
Mo Wagner is out for the year.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
So yeah,
he
that's
was the
crazy.
physical presence in that series.
Oh yeah, and he was a pest to the Cavs. They couldn't figure out what to what to do with him. He was like that at Michigan though.
Yeah. Oh, he was. Well, he played for Michigan, so what do you expect?
Mm-hmm.
But his brother's all right. His brother's he doesn't whine. But Mo Wagner, he's kind of a, he's a player that if he's not on your team, you do not like.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, and I do not like him.
Yeah.
But yeah. Oh, so we still got Cavs talk, but before I forget, rest in peace to George Foreman. So that took he
Oh yes.
he passed away over past weekend. And then also too, shout out to Ohio State women's basketball team. They made it to the field of 32. Unfortunately, they lost two people during the game, two starters during the game yesterday against Tennessee, and it just was too much
Yes.
for them. And Tennessee ended up winning that game. It was at
Yeah.
Ohio State too, and you hope that Ohio State had a little, home cooking. But two injuries to two starters, and one was their 6'6" girl from Finland, their freshman phenom, and
Yeah.
she went down, so that was a loss. And also Ohio State women's hockey team, they made it to the national championship game and lost against
Oh.
Wisconsin in overtime. So
Mhm.
Ohio State women's hockey, they've been making it to the national championship for like the past 3 or 4 years, like facing Wisconsin in the game. So it's just gonna be between them. Did you ever see that ESPN, like it was a joke ESPN had put on between the Cavs and the Warriors, talking about their series was going to be played for the next 50 years or whatever. And they had like a Mad Max theme. I got to find that video and send it to you.
Really?
Yeah, but was talking about the Warriors, and then Bronny was going to face like what's Steph Curry's little girl Riley Curry, and then we're going to be reincarnated as
Oh my
machines and
gosh.
still face each other, for the next 50 years in the NBA finals and stuff like that. It's pretty funny. So I got to find it and send it to you, but I have a feeling that's
That's
what Wisconsin and Ohio State might be like.
with George Foreman. I grew up in a house that loved boxing.
Okay.
My dad boxed in the military, and my brother wanted to be a boxer. We actually had a boxing ring in our backyard.
Oh, really?
Yes, and I got knocked out once by my brother. But George Foreman, he's an icon. He's really, he wasn't really likable when he boxed in his career before he made his comeback. But then I read something where he had a life-changing experience. And I just really like George Foreman. And it's sad that he passed away.
Why wasn't he likable?
He just was kind of a guy that wasn't real personable. I think I can't remember. I can't really put my finger on it. I just remember that he wasn't a person. He wasn't a boxer people liked. But then when he made his comeback, he was different, and everybody liked him. And then he sold the grills. I mean, the George Foreman grill. I mean, that was huge.
Mm-hmm.
But he'll be missed. He was younger than I thought too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I thought he was older.
Yeah, guess who they offered the grill to first? Who turned it down?
Who?
Hulk Hogan.
Oh, geez.
That racist. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I'd rather.
Yeah, they offered it to him first, and then he turned it down.
What a fake! But I can I say something? It's George Foreman passed away earlier in the week. Last week, we had a death in Wycliffe.
Oh.
Our longtime athletic director and football coach, Tom Rosnick, passed away. He had cancer. He was my teacher, one of my teachers in high school. He was a great man, and very respected by everybody in the high school sports community. And his son is the Cavaliers team doctor.
Oh, that's my surgeon who worked on my knee. Who did
my knee. Yeah.
I was just about to ask, was there any relation?
Yes, he is his son. When he was growing up in Wycliffe, he was Jimmy Rosnick. But his dad proudly told me, after he became a doctor, his dad proudly said to me, "Oh, Tim, it's James, Dr. James Rosnick now." And he was just a really good man. And I just wanted to mention him real quick.
Yeah, rest in peace to Mr. Rosnick, and my condolences to Dr. Rosnick. Like I said, if you ever need surgery, to go to him, and I see him all the time, in the Cavs locker room, and I make sure I speak because that surgery changed my life too. So thanking him and stuff like that afterwards, it's And if I do see him in time, I'll give my condolences to him. But I saw that because I thought you had somebody else that passed away too, unfortunately.
I did. A friend of mine who was a lawyer in Wickliffe, who was a very, very close friend, a nice man, Robert Gregor, he was known as Bob. He passed away too. And he was a huge sports fan. He loved baseball. So yeah, I found out about them like 2 minutes apart.
I'm so sorry for your loss, Tim.
Yeah.
So, yeah, definitely, hold people close, and you just never know.
You don't know.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And, it's so much stuff taking people up out of here, earlier and earlier. So, just, be grateful for the ones that you have in your life and, pray for them and want the best for them because you just never know. So Tim, we're going to take another quick break. We're going to finish off Cavs and then we're going to get to the Guardians who start their season in the next couple days. And we're going to try to find out what channel they're going to be on so people can be able to watch now. So
I don't know if they're going to be on.
Yeah, I know. They said like literally it might be up until game time when people figure out what channel they're going to be on, which is kind of crazy to me. So we're going to be right back. You're listening to Her in the Huddle on WOVU 95.9 FM. We'll be right back.
Here with an important message. Our children and families need you. At BCDI Ohio, we are dedicated to empowering Black children through education, advocacy, and community support. But we can't do it alone. We need mentors, professionals, and volunteers who are passionate about making a difference. When you give your time, you change lives. Whether it's helping a child with access to resources, leading a community project, or just showing up to support, your impact is powerful. So I'm asking you, will you step up? Visit bcdiohio.org to learn more and sign up to volunteer today. That's bcdiohio.org. Because when we invest in our children, we build a brighter future for everyone. Join us. Become a member where your time is power.
This message was brought to you by Black Child Development Institute, Ohio, and WOVU 95.9 FM. Our voices united, mission driven 24/7.
Develop a routine that promotes health, healing, and self-compassion. Spend more time in nature and ensure you get enough rest. If you need further assistance with preventive health behaviors to be your best self, consider reaching out to the Village of Healing Center, Cuyahoga County's first and only Black-led, Black-operated medical center with all Black providers focused on your health and mental health needs. Visit www.villageofhealingclean.com to learn more about how our services improve health outcomes for Black men, women, and children.
This message was presented by the Village of Healing Center, the solution to life-saving healthcare for our community, and WOVU 95.9 FM. Our voices united. Burtonville Car Community Radio.
Welcome back to Her in the Huddle with Rachel Hill, the First Lady of Sports.
All right, welcome back to Her in the Huddle on WOVU 95.9 FM. This is your girl, Rachel Hill, the First Lady of Sports. And with me today, I have Tim Shire of the Lake County Sentinel. And Tim, why don't you tell everybody about your paper?
Well, we're in about, what is it? Just a little over 2 weeks. We'll be celebrating our 28th anniversary, 28 years since we published our first edition. We're online now, www.lakecountysentinel.com. That's where I write those Cavs articles that I'm writing as you're sitting next to me at the Cavs games. And but Tommy, my son, who does some work for the Sentinel, he did his new mock draft today, and has I think he's going against everybody else who he says the Browns will pick. So So, but that's it. The Lake County Sentinel. Yeah, it's been my life's work for the last 28 years. And I got to meet people,
Congratulations.
and I got to meet people like you,
Yeah.
which makes it amazing. I met you and a bunch of those other people like that cover the Cavs that I met through the years. It's very rewarding getting to know people. That's the best
Yeah.
part of it.
Yeah, it's been a joy to meet you too, and congratulations. I'm just so proud of you, because it's a grind, going to every Cavs game and watching them, on TV and stuff like that. It's a lot. People don't think it is, it's different than a casual fan, where you're actually, having to write something after the game. So, that's very important. Being a journalist is you're disseminating information to the masses, and, hopefully you enjoy what you do. I think you do because you continue to do it. And, maybe the Cavs will bring home another title this year. But, I'm satisfied with how Kenny Atkinson is doing things, I'm not the type of person. I try not to blame coaching, because the coaches are not out there playing. One of the things, is these players have been playing basketball since they have been kids. Shouldn't they know what to do already by now?
Yeah, and they do for the most part. If you think about it, if you watched an NBA player play against a college like Lakeland or Lake Erie College or a high school team, it would just be unbelievable. The last guy on the bench in the NBA is so talented, compared to you have to be amazing to be one of those guys.
Mm-hmm. Even if you don't play.
Yeah. I mean, even though we joke about, Tristan Thompson being past his prime and, he's still in an elite level compared to what I know what I could do. Oh my gosh. Like it would be, I wouldn't even want to shoot a basketball in front of any NBA player because it would be so embarrassing.
Mm-hmm.
They're elite athletes. Like baseball players, with baseball starting, the hardest thing in sports to do is hit a baseball.
Mm-hmm. I absolutely believe that. I think it takes a lot of skill to be able to do something like that too,
And that's why a lot of people get on Austin Hedges. Yeah, he strikes out, but he's still, he's elite defensively. And that's what matters to them from the guy who's going to catch, probably every 5 days. It looks like he's probably Tanner Bybee's personal catcher, maybe. So
yeah,
it'll be interesting to see what's on opening night. If opening day in Kansas City is Hedges going to catch and maybe Bo Naylor will DH. I don't know. So, but
yeah, you can see the difference between him and that one pitcher. Well, not one pitcher. I'm sorry, but that one catcher that they had signed a year or two ago. I can't remember what his name, but they let him go pretty quickly.
Yes. Oh, I can't remember it either.
Mike Zimmer? Did it start with a Z?
Zanino.
Okay, yeah. You get to tell the difference in that by offensive production as well.
People get on the Guardians for not signing free agents. That was a disaster.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and also, what was his name? Went to Miami, Josh Bell. I don't know. I feel like they could have gave Josh Bell a little bit more burn than what they did. Because he went to Marlins and played extremely well. But sometimes they let them stick around too long or they let them go way too early. So it is what it is. But Tim, baseball is coming up on the 27th, and what are we here on the 24th? So the season starts on the 27th, just pretty much 3 days from now. And what are your thoughts about the Cleveland Guardians? What type of season are you anticipating from them?
Well, I feel like I think they'll win the division.
Okay.
I think they'll win between 90 and 95 games. I feel like there's some things that are going to happen that people don't, people don't expect or they just don't believe will happen. I think Bibby's going to make that next step, and he's truly going to be an ace now that he got extended. I also think Gavin Williams is going to have a big year.
Okay.
So I'm a little worried about McKenzie. I hope he can get it together. It worries me. But I also think that Bo Naylor is going to have a huge year. And the people who haven't really been behind him, I think they're probably either they'll get behind him now or they'll just be silent because they don't want to admit they were wrong. But I'm a little concerned with the trade they made Saturday.
Okay. What was the trade that they made Saturday?
The Tyler Freeman for Nolan Jones.
Oh, yeah. Nolan Jones, somebody that they let go.
Yeah,
I'm just didn't give an opportunity to.
Yeah, I'm baffled by that. I mean, Tyler Freeman, by all accounts, supposedly won the opening day second baseman job, and then they traded him.
Yeah.
So Gabriel Arias, I guess, now is going to be the second baseman. But also what bothers me about it is that reportedly, I don't know this for a fact, but reportedly Saturday morning, Will Brennan was told he made the team.
Mm-hmm.
And they made the Nolan Jones trade. And they announced today that he's starting the year at AAA.
Mm.
So that kind of thing is not the best circumstances. That's not great for your locker room, I don't think. But also my thing is Nolan Jones better than when they basically gave up on him 2 years ago?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't understand this. And the guy has missed, I was looking it up. He's played in 185 games the last 2 years out of a possible 324. So he's missed a lot. He's missed 139 games, but I guess we could take 24 off that because Spikes play 150. So he's missed 115 games over the last 2 years. And this is a guy you're trading. You're basically your super utility man for. I just don't understand the trade. But I still think they're going to have a good year. They need to give John Kenzie Noel at bats. They need to give Kyle Manzardo at bats. Both of them have to get at bats every day.
Mm-hmm.
You can't be playing a guy for 5 days and then have him sit for 5 days. It just doesn't work in Major League Baseball.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they have to do less of that and more of giving those guys regular at-bats, But my outlook is that they'll win the division. The Tigers, I think the Tigers and Twins will be, we'll battle them. But I also think Kansas City's going to fall back a little bit. I could be wrong, but I think they're going to fall back a little bit. I think they played over their heads last year a little bit. But in the White Sox, I think they'll finish in last. I mean, so what do you think? Do you think? Are you as optimistic as I am?
I don't know why everybody says that we're going to win like 90 games. I'm going for 100 games. I'm going for winning the division again. And I'm going to the ALCS, maybe a repeat of the Yankees, because they were going tit for tat with the Yankees this season, and for a long time held the best record in baseball. And then what did they win on like a 7-8 game losing streak or whatever, so that happened. But I don't know. I'm looking forward. I feel like this team might miss the bat of Josh Naylor, though, a little bit. So I'm still not a fan of that trade, still trying to figure out how to navigate that, but I still don't kind of understand why it was done. I guess I do, because I know you say that the Dolans are, market baseball and, they really do the right thing. But It's just like, Josh Naylor, I felt like could have had an impact on this team. So, for him to be, shipped off because you're not going to offer him more money, I think, the fans are just tired of this cycle. They have a good player. They don't want to pay him. So, how far can this team get? They almost made it to the World Series this season, so unfortunately it proves the point that you don't have to spend a lot of money and you can still make it far. You hate things like that. Like when the Tampa Bay Rays made it to the World Series as well. And I think that they're one step below us in pay grade. So, it kind of proves that you don't have to spend a lot of money to go far. And, I hate that. But, hey, the Yankees spend a lot of money and they got smoked in the World Series, by a team that spends a ton of money too. So, how can we compete and how can we really do it is the answer that, the question that I ask myself, and I don't have an answer to it. I guess that's why they don't pay me, to be in the front office for the Guardians, because I'd be like, throw everybody money, everybody getting paid. But
Yeah.
we know that's not how it's done. So, I just, this team, they usually get off to slow starts and stuff at this time of year. So, if they can kind of get off to a hot start and keep that pacing, I think, because how many did they win last year?
I can't remember. I know they lost. I believe they lost the third game of the season, but didn't they come home from that road trip, that opening road trip, like 7-2 or 8-2?
Yeah, they got off to a hot start kind of early.
They
But,
did.
Typically this team, is a slow starting team. But, I don't know. Does Steven Vogt have some of that magic left, from last season, or will he be sophomore, be in his sophomore slump? We shall see, But I think
That's what I'm wondering too.
I think he was a pivotal change, for this team to get things done differently. So I still wonder what happened with Terry Francona and the front office of the Guardians, because, he's about to coach for the Cincinnati Reds. When you supposedly retire from baseball, and they did this big production, they had all these T-shirts. Thank you.
I wonder. I think
Hello, Tim. You froze. Sorry.
I think it was a little of both. I had said it, and I think I even wrote a commentary that I wrote. I remember writing a commentary the day after the trade deadline. I just got home from the hospital, and I wrote an article about, the trade deadline was disappointing. They traded Aaron Savali and they traded Josh Bell, and I think they clarified that the locker room was not happy about it, because the GM of a Major League Baseball team does not fly down to a city on the road trip to address the team unless something is wrong. And I felt like that was an indication right there that the front office and Francona were not on the same page. And I believe I wrote in the article that I wouldn't be surprised if Francona retired at the end of the year, because, you can only give. I get the payroll thing. But I also get that they were one game out of first place, and they sold and didn't buy, and now they're not ready to have Benzardo be the everyday first baseman, and I can't even remember what they got for Josh Bell. So, I wouldn't be surprised if Francona was a little disappointed in in how they handled the trade deadline, and that played into his retirement. Of course, he's probably never going to admit that. He's friends, him and Chris Antonetti are pretty good friends, so I don't think he's going to call him out on that. But I'm looking at it here. They came home last year. They came home 8-2. They won their first 3. They lost their finale in Oakland and then lost the opener in Seattle. And then they won 6 in a row because they won the opener too. So at home on the eclipse day, if you remember, it was the solar eclipse, the day they opened at home last year, which was a very memorable day. But yeah, I think with Francona, it was a little of both. That's my only my opinion. I could be wrong on that, but I hope I hope the Guardians can beat Cincinnati every time they play them.
Yeah, the Battle of Ohio.
So.
Okay, I'm going to take another break right quick.
I think the starting. Okay.
Go ahead, Tim. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to talk about the starting rotation, but that's okay.
Okay,
I just think it's good. I'm a little worried about Ortiz.
Okay. All right. We're going to be right back. We're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to talk that starting rotation. So you are listening to Her in the Huddle on WOVU 95.9 FM, and we are going to be right back.
This message is sponsored by the Cleveland Office of Minority Health and WOVU 95.9 FM. The social determinants of health are factors such as education level, healthcare access, and economic stability that may adversely impact your health. While these factors may not be understood by you, some institutions and people understand them clearly and may use them to discriminate against you. The Cleveland Office of Minority Health can help you understand these factors and how they may adversely impact your health. Call us today at 216-664-4925 or online at clevelandhealth.org. We are here to help.
You were made to live a good life, and that's what I believe.
You ready to take the next step toward a brighter future? Whether you want to earn your GED, improve your reading and math skills, or prepare for the workforce, the Neighborhood Centers Association's Aspire program is here to help for free. Aspire offers adult education classes designed to help you succeed. With flexible schedules, expert instructors, and a supportive community, there's no reason to wait. Get the skills, get the confidence. Get started today. Call 216-727-3825 or visit gcnca.org/aspire to enroll now. Your future is waiting. Let's go get it.
For more information, visit gcnca.org/aspire. That's gcnca.org/aspire. This message is brought to you by NCA, Aspire Program, and WOVU 95.9 FM. Our voices united, mission driven 24/7.
Welcome back to Her in the Huddle with Rachel Hill, the First Lady of Sports.
All right. Welcome back to WOVU 95.9 FM. You are listening to Her in the Huddle, and this is your girl, Rachel Hill, the First Lady of Sports. And I am here with Tim Shire of the Lake County Sentinel, and we are talking some Cleveland Guardians. So that is right. The baseball season starts in 3 days on March 27 this Thursday, and the Cleveland Guardians open up against Kansas City Royals in Kansas City. And when we went to break, Tim had said that he wanted to talk that starting rotation, and that was a good thing because Tanner Bybee is starting on this Thursday, and so for so long we've been used to Shane Bieber starting, so it's kind of different that somebody else is going to be starting this opening day and not Shane Bieber. So Tim, your thoughts about this starting rotation?
Well, I think that Tanner Bybee he's now the ace. He's the ace because look, Bieber might not. Who knows when Bieber comes back? If he comes back in June, it's going to take him a little bit, but I'm not saying he
ain't coming back immediately.
No. He needs a little more time, which is not surprising. But I would say June. That's what I would think. That'll be 14 months. I think, he's got a lot on the line. I can't blame him for not coming back and they're good with it. I'm glad they came to a contract, this year and an option next year for Bieber. Who knows if he'll stay? Nobody thought that he would resign, and he did. So he might pick up the option next year. But I'm really happy with Bibby as a starter now. He seems to have matured. So that's good. Gavin Williams, I think he's going to have a great year. He's in the number 2 spot. Louis Ortiz, I'm a little worried about. He didn't look very good in the spring, but who knows? He might have been working on stuff all spring. I don't know. And then you got Ben Lively in the 4 spot. And then Logan Allen, surprisingly, won the fifth starter job. I think pretty much all of Cleveland was down on Logan Allen last year, and he came to spring training, and he's looked very good, and he's the 5th starter. McKenzie is going to be out of the bullpen. As for Joey Cantillo, he's going to be out of the bullpen too. I'm still not sold on Cantillo though. He just gives up too many home runs, too many big hits.
Mm-hmm.
And then the bullpen should be really good again this year, I hope. Considering I picked a bunch of them in my fantasy drafts. So, yes, let's hope the bullpen is. If not, I'm not going to do real well. But I'm hoping that Vogt lets the starters go a little longer this year. It drove me crazy when they talked about, Tanner went deep tonight and he went 6 innings. That's not going deep. In Major League Baseball, going deep is working into the 7th, possibly the 8th.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'm not able to adjust to this new world order of baseball where, they don't go as long. But I know if they had gone a little longer last year, the starters, I don't think the bullpen would have fallen apart in the ALCS like it did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, you definitely want, if you can get them to go to 7, innings, I thought that was the perfect spot, but Vogt was pulling them out before that. And I understand, Guy's gotten himself into some trouble, pull him out and get that bullpen in. But like you said, that bullpen was fatigued by the time, it came around to play the Yankees and stuff like that. So, that's an improvement opportunity for Stephen Vogt to get better at doing that.
Yes, and hopefully he won't pitch Emmanuel Clase in non-save situations.
Okay.
He can't do that.
Yeah, hopefully, he has learned. Oh yeah, Emmanuel Clase. Woo. Yeah, I felt sorry for him. You know what I'm saying? He did so great, in the Cy Young conversations, even though they don't want to give it to the closer, and he probably should have won. He was doing so great, and then that Yankee series came and they got up on him early and often when he, had to come in quick. And, hopefully, he's improved. He's had an improvement opportunity mentally from that because I can't imagine, the psyche that he has, being the best closer in baseball and, the Yankees just tag you left and right. So, looks like they're going to see each other in the playoffs possibly again.
But you know what? I always like to tell people too, Mariano Rivera blew a World Series for the Yankees. And he's the greatest closer of all time. Mm-hmm. So it does happen,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it happens. And, it definitely happens to the Guardians, stuff like that. So, unfortunately, Tristan McKenzie. So when is Tristan going to pitch? Tristan's going to pitch out of the bullpen?
He's going to be out of the bullpen to start. I think he's going to be a long man. So we'll see. I mean, they've got 3 long men in that bullpen, though.
Okay.
Jacob Junis, Tristan McKenzie, and Joey Cantillo. But I don't think Joey Cantillo goes long because I'm just not sold on that guy.
Tristan McKenzie?
Joey Cantillo.
Oh, okay.
I'm just not sold. But McKenzie, I think the injury, I don't think it was as bad as people wanted to say because he's still pitching. He would have blown that out by now if it was if he really needed Tommy John. There's no way he could still be pitching, and his velocity's back up.
Okay, that we definitely need. So,
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting because, I love me some Tristan McKenzie. So, if he didn't need the surgery, he didn't need the surgery. But, you want him to continue to be on this team. You want him to be a major contributor, and you want him to be one of the reasons why this team can win a World Series because, he was getting up in there into ace category. And Tim, I appreciate you being able to make it on with me last minute too. I always appreciate you.
No
I
problem.
love you. Thank you for doing the show. And how can they reach you really quickly? Because we only got a couple seconds.
Oh, at TB Bucks Tim on X.
All right. TB Bucks Tim on X. This is Rachel Hill, and this is Her in the Huddle, and we are out of here.